to a couple of Aggie soccer players. And so, G, tell us a little bit about who we've got today.
Well, we've got two of the top players from this past weekend's big win. Lainey Carroll, who had her debut goal for Texas A&M, and then, of course, our captain, Addie McCain, who had a brace. And really, both of these players, outstanding performances. And really, last week we had Addie on, but Addie sounded like she was speaking into a soup can, so we thought we would bring her back in so people could actually see that she actually, or hear that she actually has a real personality to it. So, Dave, I'll turn it back over to you, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right, so Addie, I can't help but ask about the goal that, I believe it was your second goal that you scored, where Coach G called it just a world-class goal, where you lifted it over the goalkeeper, just a little chip shot, right? Tell us about that.
Honestly, I thought she punched it over the bar, so I was kind of upset about that, and I kind of turned around, and then my teammates were running at me screaming, so then it was really exciting, and yeah, I'm just glad it kind of worked in my favor.
You know, you come in, everybody's looking to you, you're a captain, number one, but you're, a senior, and you've been a leader on this team for 4 years now. What does it feel like to be able to get your first goal there in the second half, to kind of, does that take some pressure off a little bit? You start going, okay, we're started now.
It does a little bit for sure, just because we were kind of right almost there in the first half and we couldn't put that final piece on it. And we've been working so hard, and we've seen it kind of come together finally. And so to be able to put a few in the back of the net is really cool. And especially at Ole Miss, we kind of always go there, and there's some weird stigma about it where we can't seem to play how we want. And so I think putting the pieces together was really exciting for us.
Lainey, tell me about, okay, this is your first college soccer game, and it's a conference game. I mean, this one counts. What were the butterflies like before the game started?
They were definitely there, but I think it was one of those moments where as soon as the whistle blew, they went away, and then it was just playing the game that we've been playing.
Now, have you got the report back on how many miles you ran during the course of this game? Not yet? Okay. Coach G, what's your estimate?
A lot, and it's interesting because this was one of the first times that we had played a full 90 minutes, because most of the time we're playing against ourselves. So we would keep the games at maybe 66 minutes. So a few of our players who had not really been out on that long of a run yet really had to do some big time mileage. Specifically, Macy Kolb, Jimena Lopez, Taylor Zemer, and Taylor Pounds all. But the way that Lainey plays is she's we thought that some of the fouls that were called against her were actually speeding tickets because she was running past people so far. And the other thing that I thought was interesting about the game, and this is for both of these players, is that if your first impression of Lainey Carroll is the yellow card that she got, that she came in and just a little bit too fast, came in and hit a girl and knocked her, a tall girl, and knocked her over, it's exactly opposite of the way she is. These are two of the nicest people you're ever going to come around. But once the whistle blows, all bets are off, I think, is the way it works out.
So, Lainey, I asked Addie about her two goals. You scored the third goal, which put the game on ice for Texas A&M. And that was just looking from where I was, looked like it was an almost impossible angle. And you managed to find the back of the net, the side netting, actually.
Well, yeah, so Jimena played a great ball down the line, and I was just able to take the defender on, and I actually saw that the back post was kind of open. The keeper was cheating near post a little bit, and I saw that it was open and went for it.
How big a space did you have to squeeze that ball in?
Not that big of a space, but it worked out for the best.
So all three of these goals came in the second half, ladies. Addie, in the locker room at halftime, what were your thoughts going in, and what did you guys talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, we just kind of were missing that final piece. We were right there, and the thing was just to bring the intensity and the energy and have the same game plan going into the second half, because we were so close in the first half, and it was just connecting that final piece to kind of get us going, I think. So the first one kind of led to another one, and then it just kind of spiraled. So, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely got Ole Miss back on their heels.
Well, and the other thing that we talked about at halftime was just to remind our players that they had been in control. We got off to a kind of a slow start. I mean, you're kind of shaking off 6 months of rust as you're getting this game started. You're on the road. You're against a different type of opponent than we've played in the past. But most of the chances that Ole Miss got in the first half were kind of mindless errors by us. We give away throw-ins near the goal line, and they have someone who can throw the ball into the goal mouth. So that was a chance for them. We gave up some silly fouls. I think the first 9 fouls that the referee called were all against us. And so here they are. They're a restart team, and they're able to lob balls in. So at halftime, we just kind of said, hey, let's just keep our thinking caps on. Let's just be a little bit smarter about the way we do things. And that's pretty much how it worked out. So they didn't really get any more. They had one serious chance in the second half. Really proud of our defense. We talked about how dangerous Channing Foster was. The most shots of any player in the SEC last year. She got 1 shot, and it was with her right foot, and she's left-footed. So they did I thought across the board, the players took the information that we provided. It's one thing for us to provide information. It's another thing for them to go out and actually accomplish what they were trying to do. So really a super second half. Now, can we turn that around this Sunday and do a good first half to go with a good second half?
Laney, I wanted to go back to you and ask you about you know, being a freshman, and you've got Allie Russell playing up top with you quite often. But back behind, you've got all this experience. You've got Addie McCain and Jimena Lopez and Taylor Zemer and others. It's got to be number one, reassuring to you, but it's also, I mean, you've got players back there that you know can put the ball in the right place for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think it definitely provides a huge sense of security having players like Carlina and Addie and Taylor, just to name a few. I could honestly go on and list probably every single person on this team. But it's a huge sense of security, and the fact that they can place the ball exactly where I want it to go, it's awesome.
And Addie, I've got to ask you, as you know, as a veteran, I mean, you see these young freshmen come in, not just Laney, but the rest of the freshmen. You've got some players out there who can play, right?
Oh, absolutely. Laney was unreal, and I think especially for Barbie, like the ones that started, it took a little bit to get used to. It's a different game, especially when you go from playing each other to playing somebody who wants to kick your butt. And so I think it took a little bit to get into it, but they were awesome, and I know they'll continue just to get better with each and every game and the experience that they're going to gain over the next 7 games. So it's exciting. It definitely is, especially for now and for the future for Aggie soccer.
So does it make you feel old that you played with Haley Pounds and now you're playing with her younger sister?
It does for sure. It's crazy because they're like the same person. They have the same laugh, and I will look over and I think it's Haley for a second. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Laney, what are you looking forward to most the rest of the season for the team? What are you looking forward to?
Man, well, I feel like we really just scratched the surface with the amount of talent that there is on the team, and just our possession-oriented game. I really feel like the rest of the season can go really well for us, and I'm just excited to see how that turns out.
Addie, what about you? This is your last rodeo.
I know.
And it's a shortened season at that. What about you?
I'm just excited that we're playing. You know, at this point we can't take any day for granted, and so just to get out there is exciting. The growth that I think we're going to see, just the confidence I've seen from some of the freshmen from the spring to now is unreal. So, like I said, I think with those 7 games, the potential's there, and it's just going to be exciting to see and exciting to be a part of.
All right, that is Addie McCain and Laney Carroll. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back right after this. The Aggie Legends segment, and we've got a great one to visit with today. Kristen Coop, who played from Texas A&M from 1993 to 1996, back in the early days of Aggie soccer, and one of those standard bearers who basically helped set the standard for Texas A&M soccer. During her time here, the Aggies were 67, 15, and 3. And Kristen, you're now living in Denver, Colorado, right?
I am. We've been in Colorado for about 20 years. Life is a little different. I have 3 kids, so a little different from my college days. But actually, we're here on our first visit back to A&M for a college visit. So it's our first of many college tours we're going to do. So Riley wanted to check A&M out, even though we're here all the time. She still wanted to do the tours. So it's pretty fun to see the college through her eyes now, because I've personal experience, but to see it through her eyes is pretty fun.
You were talking a little bit ago about practices, and Coach G was laughing about the practices on the drill field, where you used to have people just walk through practices because that's where you guys practiced, right?
It is, and actually we really liked it because we were right in the center of campus, and I think with just kind of getting the word out about the team and how we were expanding and kind of growing in the conference and in games, and I guess in really in the eyes trying to get the word out of our team. It was fun to kind of be in the center of campus. So we enjoyed it, but it was pretty funny. People walking through campus or walking through the practice is pretty funny.
I have to tell you a story that Coach G told me before practice today when we were talking about the interview today. He said that back then when you were the last person that he kept.
True.
And he said, to this day, it's still probably the best decision he ever made as a coach at Texas A&M. I mean, so you knew when you started, you knew you were right at the margin, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. I heard that story later because I think that I was even on a list that was possibly going to get cut. And I think there was conversation about, potentially keeping me on the team. So thankful. Obviously, it was meant to be for me to be on the team. It was a huge, huge blessing. But even in that process, realizing that my number was 23. Whoop, and I remember the next year, some people left the team, and G said, you can move your number up if you want, a lower number. I was like, absolutely not. It reminds me of where I started and the hard work that it's going to take to get where I want to be. So
G, what was it that made you decide to keep Kristen?
Pace more than anything. She was a fast little girl, and well, she's probably a lot faster than I am still, but she's great pace, left foot. We've always had have always had a special place in our hearts for lefties, and just kept scoring. And so in that first year, we did 2-a-days, and I actually sacrificed the first 2 days of what would have been 2-a-days to do a regular open tryout, which had the 13 freshmen that I had recruited to come in, but then it had the whole returning Texas A&M group, and so I think we kept eight or 9 girls or maybe 10 girls from that particular group. And so Kristen was, like I said, was the conversation like, okay, she has this. We can't turn her back on this. And of course, she goes on to score huge goals for us, lots of big goals for us, and was one of the key people for getting us into the NCAA's for the first time. And we competed in '95 for the Southwest Conference Championship. We got to the championship game, lost in double overtime to a team that went to the Final Four from SMU. And then the next year, we went all the way to the championship game of the new Big 12 conference as well. And so she and her teammates at that time were the ones who kind of set the foundation. And it's neat now I'm sure to come back and for us change always happens, but for the players who were here in those days, I think that the size of the school has doubled, and the number of buildings is a lot more, especially over here on West Campus. So it's neat to see. It's neat to see through her daughter's eyes what this place means, and of course for Kristen as well. And we don't have a camera on Kristen, but she looks like she could play right now. And you've been doing triathlons, is that right?
I did an Ironman. I think that was our last big year that we had a reunion. I did an Ironman in 2017, and so I was actually going to start training for one again this year, and then obviously Corona happened, so I didn't end up getting to do it. But can I just say as a side note, is it amazing that he remembers crazy details? He's been doing this for 27 years, and he can remember goals that were scored. He can remember plays. He can remember season records. I mean, it amazes me because I'm thinking,
I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
It's amazing though. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking, he remembers things a lot better than I do.
Well, G and I have often talked that we can remember small details like that, when something happened, some goal or whatever. But if our wives happen to send us to the store and it's more than 3 items, we have to have a list. I don't know why that is, but it is. So when you came here to Texas A&M and that your second year, I guess it was, the first year that Texas A&M qualified for the NCAA's, and that's the first, and A&M one of 4 schools out of 330 some odd schools that play Division I soccer. One of 4 schools who's made it every year. Did you realize that you were going to be part of something like that?
I don't think you can realize that at that moment. I mean, back then, our big game in our minds was still the UT A&M game. I mean, that was huge for us, right? And SMU at that time was, gosh, our nemesis. Year after year, we struggled, and we would go back and forth in games with them. Those are the 2 schools I remember. But I remember there was a year that they were close, that they were maybe not going to make it a few years ago, and I remember we were watching games, we were rooting for them, we were so excited to know that they were still able to get in to the tournament. But it's amazing what they've been able to accomplish.
What does it look like to you now when you walk out on a place like Ellis Field compared to the fields that you played on, not just here, but I suspect around the conference and around the country?
The middle school.
Yeah, how far women's soccer has come.
Yeah, we played at home with the Kitty Cats, actually.
Wild Kids.
Yeah. I think we always called it the Kitty Cats. But you know, when the field was first done, was probably my senior year, and I remember there was a huge storm, and there was water pockets all over the field, and we would run as fast as we could. And we would they canceled the game, so we were supposed to be, clearing off the field. We were face diving across the water, across the field, and so I don't think we realized what an amazing place it was going to be. We were just in the moment, but to come back and see the stands and to see the Yell Leaders out here, I love it. It's absolutely, it's what you think of for A&M, and to see what G's created here, and to see the support from the student body. I'm so excited for these girls to get that experience. It's amazing. It's one of a kind. I mean, in the nation, it's truly amazing.
Well, and you and the players of your time, I mean, people like Mel Wilson and Diana Rowe and Bryn Blaylock, I mean, you played with some great players. And I know that if we asked them, they would mention you as one of the great players that they played with. But, I mean, you really, really did. There were some great players that were on those teams that you played on.
I know. What an amazing experience, truly, to play soccer. And for me, when I graduated high school, I thought I was done. I never thought I'd get to play again. So to play again was one thing, and then to play with the caliber of players that he was bringing in was, I felt out of place at times just because you were in such great company. So it's amazing to look back and to see what they've been able to accomplish past A&M even.
Well, Coach G, Phil Stevenson, Lori Stevenson, they're still bringing them in. And so grateful that you took, you had the time to sit down with us, and so glad to see you back on campus. Great to see you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, G.
You bet, darling. Love you.
All right, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. Right after this, you're listening to the Aggie Soccer Hour. I'm David Ellis alongside his G. Guerreri. Soccer and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood, and Rudy's smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs and 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. All right, we have a winner in our trivia contest. The question was, who was the last true freshman to score a goal in their very first game at Texas A&M? And the winner, go ahead, G.
No, I'm interested to hear who the winner is. I think it's this person has gone out and have a pretty good career so far.
Yeah, I think you'd have to say that. The answer was back in 2017 in San Diego, California versus Pepperdine. It was Jimena Lopez. And that question, again, came from Associate Head Coach Phil Stevenson. And and you're right. She's done pretty good.
Absolutely. And she's, and the thing about Jimena is, she's someone that even after she graduates here, she's getting her Aggie ring this weekend. And after she graduates from Texas A&M, she's someone that you're going to continue to see in world football because she's only scratching the surface of the kind of player she is becoming.
All right, speaking of Associate Head Coach Phil Stevenson, one of the features that we have is a segment called 5 with Phil. And so I had an opportunity to sit down this afternoon and talk with Phil about Saturday night's game. And here's what he had to say. Bill, first of all, congratulations on a great win. And everybody, it's obvious. Addie McCain, Laney Carroll really, really had great games for Texas A&M. Addie with 2 goals, Laney with the third goal of the night. But let's talk a little bit about, from your perspective as associate head coach, who were really some of the unsung heroes of the game?
Well, thanks, David. Looking a little bit of video and just from my perspective, you have to give a lot of credit to our back four. We limited them so many times. And you're thinking about Carlina, hasn't played since she tore ACL against Florida last year. She came in and she just led right from minute one. Katie Smith had been kind of my MVP in preseason for the way she's attacking the ball. She did really well with her head, but she's been attacking the ball in front of forwards, winning the ball before it even gets to forward's foot. And she did a few of those things on Saturday. Macy and Jimena were just everything. I mean, they were attackers, and they were really good attackers, and they were defenders, and they were really good defenders. So when you look at how we played, we stopped them having space that they had last year. I watched film from last year, and our backline retreated so quickly, and it gave them a lot of running room, and it made our midfield defend in huge amounts of space. And the whole idea of defending is to defend in the smallest space possible. So backline stuck to the game plan and then just performed. I thought they did great.
One of the things that we had talked about before the game and looking at film myself was Channing Foster, their forward, really good on her left foot, likes to go to her left. And the midfield and the back line really kept her from doing that. She got one shot off, and it was off of her right foot. I mean, it seems like they really, really just had a tight, very cohesive defensive unit.
You could see from last year's film that the gap between our backline and Taylor Zima was huge. And Janin, who is a very, very good player, loves that space. She loves to come off the forward line. She's not going to run away from people too often, but she's going to get the ball in front of a defense and shoot from in front on the left foot quite often. When we denied her that space, she was often receiving the ball back to goal. And as she turned, she was meeting Katie and she was meeting Carlina. And they're good.
Yeah.
They did a great job. To have her hit one shot with her right foot, and she led the SEC in shots last year. That's a good piece of defending.
Well, and that's what you meant by not giving them that space, the space that she wanted to operate in. First half, a little bit choppy at times. I'm sure a lot of that was just kind of rust, for one thing. But then second half just seemed to be, in a lot of ways, a completely different team. What did you talk about at halftime to maybe make some changes in the way the Aggies approach the game?
Well, if you think about any time that you do something that you haven't done for maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 months, whatever it may be, whether it's playing the piano, whether it's riding a bike, you are a little bit rusty. I think there was quite a few fouls, a couple of yellow cards that were just people being really excited. So at halftime, I really focused on what we did well. Everybody knows they might have given up a pass here or missed a tackle here, missed a header. We don't need to focus on that. And I thought there was pockets of space either side of their midfield, not wide. We were already doing really well wide, but just like an interior pocket on the top of the 18. That if we could get the ball into that area, Addie McCain and Barbara Oliveri, if we could get the ball there, we'd have a little bit of fun. And then Addie pops in there twice. We get a ball on a switch, and we put the game away.
That is Texas A&M Associate Head Coach Phil Stevenson. His thoughts on the game, and we're going to take one final break. We'll be right back right after this. G. I'm David Ellis, and by my side is the man who feels like Clark Griswold when he found out that his bonus was the Jelly of the Month Club. Ladies and gentlemen, G. Guerreri.
Yep, 2020 just keeps on giving, doesn't it? It's just coming and coming and coming. And again, so, those who didn't hear earlier in the show, we are not going to be playing our game against Auburn this Sunday. That game will be rescheduled because we have one of our players out with COVID, and contact tracing has taken out 8 of our players. So that drops us down below the number that we need to play by SEC rules. So we will reschedule that match. Hopefully, we're still on track for the Arkansas game on the 4th of October.
Well, in addition to the good news of the victory over Ole Miss, and in addition to Chantel Hutton being on the defensive team, or the defensive player of the week, and I believe Addie McCain on the Top Drawer Soccer team of the week.
Team of the week, right? National team of the week.
In addition to that, the first rankings of the year came out today, and Texas A&M is ranked number 5 in the country.
That's not a bad way to start, and we're not going to lose this week. So, so we're trying to look at everything positively, aren't we?
I was going to say this 2020 thing is really jaded.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. No, it's great. It's very flattering always to be ranked. I know that we have been ranked in the top 10 now 25 years in a row. That's quite
at some point in the season.
That's quite a thing. So it's that is a cool thing, and it is a lot of hard work by these young ladies that has put them there. Now we've got this nice big target on our back, so let's go earn it.
Absolutely. So to look at scores in the SEC last week. The very first game was Mississippi State and Auburn, and that was a 1-1 draw. We had an opportunity to.
We saw that on TV while we were in the hotel in Oxford, and again, two teams that hadn't played in a while. The Mississippi State coach, the former associate head coach at Auburn, so they know each other very well, and the game played like that. With Auburn had more chances, more quality chances than State did, but State came from behind and got a penalty kick late, and they go out, they share the points. Both of them come out with 1 point and a 1-1 draw.
Saturday, by the way, Texas A&M not the first team to have issues with the COVID virus and have a game postponed. Florida had to postpone their game at Missouri. That will be played later on as well. Tennessee traveled to Alabama and fell to the Crimson Tide 3-1.
The Tennessee coach wasn't able to go because he was contact traced back to for COVID, so he had to stay in Knoxville and sent the team on. And Alabama really with a super showing. I thought Alabama looked real strong, and they're always strong in Tuscaloosa. So a 3-1 victory for the Tide, and that one was a good statement win for those guys.
Arkansas held serve at home, beating LSU 2-0. Not a big surprise there, I wouldn't think.
I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised for LSU on how well they played.
Yes.
I mean, Arkansas are the defending champions, and they're number 11 in the country right now. We've got 4 teams in the top 11 right now, and I think a lot of people thought Arkansas was going to beat them a lot worse than that, and LSU came out with a real good athletic side and kept it close.
And then on Sunday, 2 games. Georgia at home defeated South Carolina. Was that an upset to you?
It was. I mean, South Carolina is in the preseason poll was the number 2 team in the league, and Georgia has been steadily. Billy Lassane, we're really happy for Billy. He's one of the nicest guys you're going to meet, the head coach at UGA. But if you look at the stats, you look at a lot of the issues on it. I mean, Georgia absolutely deserved to win that game. So good for them. It's the first time they've beaten South Carolina in quite a while. So 1-0 win for them. And then the other match, Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Kentucky jumped out to score 2 goals within about 2 minutes in the first half, both on counterattacks. And but Vanderbilt at home is a tough team to play. I mean, that was a hard win for us to beat them at home last year. They come from behind to win 3-2. So there's some big games this week coming up. If you want to put up those contests, obviously we're not going to play on Sunday, but Friday you've got Alabama going over to Mississippi State. You got Georgia down at Florida, so obviously that's a big rivalry game, the first game of the year for Florida. Ole Miss at LSU, Vanderbilt at Tennessee for the state championship of Tennessee. Mizzou heads over to South Carolina. South Carolina licking their wounds. That's not a team you want to play at home after they've lost. Arkansas goes over to Kentucky. So it's another good week in the league, and we'll obviously be watching on TV this week.
Absolutely. We get an opportunity to scout every game. We get to see them all.
That's right.
Well, as always, appreciate you listening tonight. Want to remind you this copyrighted broadcast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield IMG College under broadcasting rights granted by Texas A&M University. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the express written consent of Texas A&M and Texas A&M and Learfield IMG College. Announcers are provided by Learfield IMG College and Texas A&M University. So for G. Guerreri, Clark Griswold, I'm David Ellis. Thanks for listening, everybody. And good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, as they say, we will see you next week.
Gig 'em.